Hey guys, welcome into Stinkin Truth Podcast. Myself, Mark Schlereth, alongside Mike Evans. I am in my childhood home in Anchorage, Alaska right now. It's absolutely gorgeous out. And I love coming up here, man. I'm on moose patrol. I'm on bear patrol. I'm on, possum and porcupine patrol. You name it. I'm looking for it all. And the kids are out fishing. And I go fishing, Mike, but I don't necessarily fish. I kind of hang around. But that's not my thing as much.
You don't head out on the Bering Sea. You're not that far from the Bering Sea and Deadliest Catch. You don't head out there.
No, I'll go down to Girdwood, Alaska, is where my wife grew up, and we'll go out to 20 Mile and catch some silver salmon or whatever. But it's just gorgeous. It's a beautiful time up here. This is a beautiful time of the year to come up to Alaska. So we'll be here for the next couple of days. So I skated out of town and left you at training camp all by yourself after I spent the time there Saturday. So I was like, hey, later, hasta la vista. You enjoy training camp. I'm going up to Alaska for a couple of days. We're celebrating Poolside's 85th birthday, by the way.
85, right?
85.
Did he have a to-do list of things as soon as you touch down? Home project?
He does not let me know like what he's got planned. It's like every day is a new project, but he's not giving me like a list of things. It's just going to be like a surprise to see how I respond, I suppose. So, yeah, we've got things we got to get done, but it'll be good. It'll be a great week here up in Alaska.
I want to circle back to what you've been seeing with the Broncos. A lot of interest in Broncos country about Bo Nix and the quarterback battle. Is there a real competition, or is it just simply a decision that ultimately will have Bo Nix? But I want to start because once again, we saw one of your favorite position players get paid. Tyreek Hill got a new deal. Mm-hmm. So I know you're so happy to see these receivers getting riches bestowed upon them.
Yeah, well, Tyreek Hill is one of those unique individuals because that dude is so fast and he's such a threat. And, it's always interesting. I was talking to a defensive coordinator a couple seasons, maybe last season, whatever, or 2 seasons ago, as I was doing a game. And we're just kind of chatting it up, as you always do with these coaches and kind of getting their perspective on things. And he's like, when it comes to Tyreek Hill, you watch the film and, you're threatened and you're like, wow, this guy's really fast and we're going to have to do a great job of staying on top and da-da-da-da. And, you go on and on and on, you coach it all up and you use the techniques and how we're going to funnel him to our help and all this stuff, and you get really in depth with guys. And he goes, then you see him on the field and he's way faster on the field in person than he is on film. And this coordinator has been around forever. And he said to me, he is the fastest guy I have ever seen on the field. And, this guy's been coached when Randy Moss was on the field, like all these guys. He's just like his speed on the field is unmatched. And so he is such a threat, and he opens things up so much for everybody else on that offense. Not only is he productive, he puts up unbelievable numbers, but what he does for everybody else on the football field, both in the passing game and in the running game, he's pretty remarkable that way. It's amazing to have that kind of speed, that kind of talent, and that's why they paid him. That's why they give him all that money.
And the players recognizing it as well, as he was voted number 1 on the NFL Network Top 100 list. Patrick Mahomes finished 4th.
Yeah. Like, how stupid can players be? Do you guys not understand how dumb you are? Like, just the other day, we had the Raiders. I don't even know who it was. Had the Kermit the Frog or whatever dummy, and he was doing all this stuff with Kermit the Frog, and it was ha 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 ha. Like, you realize Patrick Mahomes is going to shove it up your ass, right? Like, you realize he's like. That video, it's like when guys get on podcasts, and they get a little loose, and they start talking, they start talking a little smack, and then they say something that they, have to call a guy personally and apologize for, like, hey, I didn't mean it, it was kind of taken out of context. How was it taken out of context? You said it. Like, you're like, well, it was, I got a little, loose and like, for NFL players, like, what do you do? Like, seriously, you want the Kansas City Chiefs to three-peat? Is that what you're trying to do? Did you hear the story last year where Patrick Mahomes texted his wife, what's her name? Brittany?
Yep.
Texted his wife, and they're like, whatever they were, like 9-6 or whatever, kind of plodding through the season. And he texted her after a game in which I think they lost. I don't know if they lost or not, but he texted her after the game, as the story goes, and he said, I've decided we're going to win the Super Bowl. That was the text he sent his wife. I just decided that we're going to win the Super Bowl. And what do? Got hot at the end and, ran it off and won the Super Bowl. So you voted him. And I don't believe quarterbacks should be on the best football player list. The receivers will be right underneath quarterbacks on that list, by the way. I'd like to take them off too. But what are you doing? Like, you can't, don't I would use the technique for players. So this is for me to the rest of you players, a technique I used to use all the time. I call it the syrup or the honey technique. And so when you're playing against a guy who's an absolute war daddy, just an absolute, the dude's just a straight up bitch, you're like pouring as much syrup on that guy as possible. So from the very first play of the game, you're like, oh man, whoa, you are playing so great. Your film is unreal, just unbelievable. Like oh my God, you're unblockable. You're unblockable. And you just keep pouring syrup on him. And eventually he gets so bogged down in the compliments that he's not playing as fast, right? And so the best thing you could do for Patrick Mahomes is not to vote him number 4. You vote him number 1 by a long shot and hope that basically he's got no extra motivation, because, he may just send a text to Andy Reid and say, I've decided here in, August that we're winning the Super Bowl after I didn't get voted number 1 overall. So you've sealed your fate, NFL. If they three-peat, dude, that is just going to be, that's it. Like, if they three-peat, it's over. Like, what are you going to do after that?
So,
they'll become as obnoxious as the 72 Dolphins who pop the cork every time somebody loses. Do you really want another 72 Dolphins? You really want a team that three-peated after nobody's done it in 58 years? That's what you want. Shame on you, NFL. Shame on you for voting. That's awful. You guys have no clue.
For your money, based on your criteria, who's the best football player in the NFL right now? Because I know you used to be really strong about Aaron Donald that way, but with Donald now retired, for your money, who's the best football player in the NFL?
I would, off the top of my head, Mike, and I think Trent Williams was number 7 on that list. Max Crosby, I think, was 9 or 10. Max is unbelievable because, he is obviously he's physically gifted, but that's his physical gifts pale in comparison to his understanding of the game, his ability to read stance, his ability to read formations, his ability to know what's coming his way, his ability to play off blocks, and his unrelenting effort. That dude is he's a full-grown ass man. I mean, he is unreal. He plays for the Raiders, that's hard. That's hard for me to say. Anybody who plays for the Raiders, but I love watching Max Crosby play football. He is that good. My love for Trent Williams. The interesting thing is, for me, probably just off the top of my head, Micah Parsons' ability to be multiple. That dude can line up a middle linebacker and be, maybe the best middle linebacker in football. He can line up off the edge and be the best pass rusher in football. His versatility, he can cover in man, he can cover in zone. His ability to do everything, for me, would probably make him the most versatile and best player in football. But there's a couple guys that you look at that, Nick Bosa is pretty damn good. Fred Warner at middle linebacker is just a really good player. But Micah Parsons, his ability to rush the passer as well as play multiple positions, a guy that you break the huddle, you have to identify and say, how we get, what's our plan for him? I'd probably put him right up there at the top.
Christian McCaffrey?
Christian's another one of those guys that just, the thing about Christian is he's just such a complete player. And you remember, even coming out of the draft, people were talking about him playing wide receiver. Like, he had such skills catching the football and route running ability. And a lot of people thought that he wouldn't be durable or he wouldn't be, capable of running between the tackles and stuff. Christian is a really good between the tackles runner. And he's more powerful, I think, a lot more powerful than people think. And the injury issues that he's had over the course of his career have all been like just soft tissue stuff. So he'd be right up there as well. I think he was number 2 or 3 on the list.
Yep.
Yeah, so he'd be right up there as well. But I guess when you start talking about the versatility of players like a Christian McCaffrey or like like a Micah Parsons, I think you have to put some of that in there. Like when a guy can kind of do multiple things exceptionally well,
Right.
you have to think about that guy as being one of the top players. I know Deebo Samuel wasn't in the top 10, but there's a guy that you could probably line up at running back for the majority of the season and rush for 1,100 yards. He's got that kind of skill set to not only be able to catch footballs, but to be able to, run out of the backfield. So he's a great football player, although he's not rating in the top 10, but yeah, I wouldn't raise an eyebrow if you put Deebo Samuel in the top 10 and said, man, this is the only guy who does this. And I'd be like, all right, that's reasonable. I can make an argument for that.
What do you make of the reports? Maybe for you, they were destined. It was predestined. It was going to happen. But already you're hearing Justin Fields really taking advantage of the number 1 reps that he's been getting because Russell Wilson's been slowed by that calf injury to the point where there's a strong growing sentiment that Justin Fields may be the starter for the Steelers at the beginning of the season.
Right. I always said from the day they made that trade that Justin Fields eventually would be the starter. I didn't know exactly when it would happen, but I figured he would eventually be the starter. I think the thing that you have to be intrigued with Justin Fields is like he was limited, in his ability to perform from the pocket, but he's gotten better each year. But he's so exceptionally gifted as a runner and off the play action stuff that you can do off of that. And he's a good deep ball thrower that when you're orchestrating or creating your offense, he just does things that other quarterbacks flat can't do. And he's such a weapon. And it's funny, I was doing a Chicago game last year against Detroit. And Detroit came back and won that game in Detroit. But they were down, and Justin Fields was playing exceptionally well. And they came back in a 4-minute drill, and I think they scored 10 points in under 4 minutes to win that game. Put a long drive together. And anyhow, long story short, sitting down with Dan Campbell and just asking him about prepping for the Chicago Bears. And he's like, you can talk about how good their young defense is and this, that, and the other. He goes, but the guy who keeps you up at night is Justin Fields. He just keeps you up at night because that dude can do things that other people flat can't do and things that you really can't defend. So when you get to the edge, right, and you're playing edge defense on zone read stuff, what you have to do is you have to give them multiple looks so that you can create some indecision if the quarterback's going to hand or keep. And so, you surf technique one time, then you crash and scrape the next time. And then there's all these different edge kind of principle rules that you have in that zone run game. And what you're trying to do is keep that quarterback off balance, or you're trying to make that quarterback hand it off so you can keep him off the edge. And he's just like, there's just no real defending that. And it just makes it really hard. And then you think about the uniqueness of a quarterback being that big, that strong, and being able to run. And ultimately, how you have a couple of days and you're not in pads nowadays. It's different than it used to be when I played. So how all of a sudden do you orchestrate like an option defense? Like, hey, now on Wednesday, we're going to put in, I know we don't run this, but now we're going to put in this defending the option defense and how we're going to orchestrate the end and how your defensive ends and you D tackles and you outside linebackers, have to be exactly on the same page to defend this properly. It's really, really hard. And, and then, like I said, all the play action stuff that comes off of that. And so you think about Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator, and the success he had in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill. And Tannehill can't run, like Justin Fields can. He's not as big and physical and everything. I mean, he was athletic. Remember, he played some receiver at Texas A&M, so he can run, but he's not like he's more straight line than he is that wiggly and then powerful. And so I could definitely see them kind of falling into this offense and going, this is going to be really hard to defend. It's going to make us a very physical run team with our running backs. And oh, by the way, Mike Tomlin, a defensive guy, it's going to take a lot of pressure off our defense. So why not? Like, why not start Justin Fields? And then you've got to ask the question, if they decide to go that direction, do you keep Russell Wilson on your roster? Like, that's going to be a legitimate decision. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it didn't surprise me to see the reports out of Pittsburgh that all of a sudden they're very intrigued by what Justin Fields can do versus what Russell Wilson can do, especially being limited by that calf.
I know you love talking about Aaron Rodgers, and the latest coming out of Jets camp is that Rodgers really coaching up the guys on offense really hard, just really pushing them to try to get to another level, to meet Aaron's standard. And the prevailing opinion is good, that this needs to happen, that if you're going to shake the Jets out of whatever, funk they've been in for so long, you need Aaron to come in and kind of, chew some ass.
Yeah, listen, Aaron, like you said, he needs to do that. The other thing is that whole organization, from Joe Douglas to to their offense coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, to all the people that are helping Hackett, to Robert Saleh, like all their eggs, one basket. It's the Aaron Rodgers basket. And all those guys, if this does not work out, if Aaron Rodgers does not lead them to the playoffs, they're all going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
And so they need Aaron Rodgers to take control of this. And, and one thing about Aaron, man, the guy is, for his quirkiness and everything else that people complain about, dude is a brilliant football mind. He totally understands the game. He can do things that just the average human can't do. And he's going to be 40 years old. So like it is now, crap or get off the pot time for Aaron Rodgers. You either got to compete and take the Jets to the promised land or take the Jets to the AFC Championship game and give people some excitement in New York, or your career is kind of over and you end with the dynasty that never was, as we talked about, and only having one championship for all the MVPs and the success. And I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I think the guy is a phenomenal player and was a phenomenal player, has been his whole career. But they need that. The Jets need that. The other thing that's really interesting, Mike, is you can go in, and I read something on Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers, and then you see the reports on Sean Payton and what's operating and the way it's operating, and everybody talks about the culture change and this and that and the other, right? And everybody's looking for that magic elixir, that culture word, but when you start to demand things from players that they've never demanded from themselves, like you've got to have those type of guys on your roster. And there's certain dudes that play at a level, that understand the game at a level and play at a pace that when you see it on film, you're like, oh, shoot, like that dude is outplaying me. And so you've got to have those guys, those guys on your roster. You say about Ray Lewis all the time, like, how do you, like when you watch Ray Lewis play and you're a member of that defense, and I've talked to guys on the defense before, they're like, they put on the film and they're like, oh my God, I got to pick up my pace. Like this dude is completely outplaying me. And so if Aaron can bring that to an organization that frankly doesn't know, hasn't known how to do that. It's not me being critical of the Jets or me, poking fun at Jets fans or whatever. Like you don't know what you don't know until somebody comes in and shows you kind of you mentioned way to do this.
You mentioned when you did a Tampa game, Brady's first year, you were talking to not me, Mike Evans, but the real Mike Evans, the really good pass catcher. And he said, what did he say to you? He goes, I always thought I knew what working hard was until Brady showed up.
Yeah. He's like, we always, and he was a multiple Pro Bowler and, and all those 1,000-yard seasons. He goes, I thought like we were prepping. I thought we were like doing, and then Brady comes in and just blows us all away with his preparation and this standard. Not only the way he was in meetings, the meetings, the preparation, the understanding of the game plan, the demanding excellence from every guy, every guy on the football field, to taking care of his body, to all, like, it was a full-time job, and everybody got to see that firsthand. And frankly, it's why they went from being a 500 football team every year where your quarterback's throwing 30 picks to winning a world championship, and coming from 8. And remember, they were like 8-6.
Yep.
And then they went on this undefeated run at the end of the season, and ended up winning the whole thing at home in Tampa. But yeah, Mike Evans was just like, man, it's a different, like a completely different game, the way Brady goes about his business.
You mentioned earlier when we first started talking that you were out at Broncos practice on Saturday, and I think for our Bronco fans out there watching, very curious to know what you see so far in this quarterback battle, quarterback competition. Jarrett Stidham, the incumbent, Bo Nix, the draft pick, Zach Wilson doing the quarterback rehab thing, still trying to kind of turn his career around. What did you see? And if you had to bet, who's going to be the starter week 1?
Yeah. First off, the very first series of team, Jarrett Stidham took the snaps of the number ones. And so everybody's up, how the media people are up in the tent on the little hill. Everybody's like, ooh, Jarrett Stidham, he's number 1, blah, blah, blah. And then every other series of team, Bo Nix was number 1. And it's really interesting. Like, there's no question that he's, very talented. There's no question that, he seems to really understand and know the offense. But where I think his biggest advantages in this quote unquote competition. And by the way, let me just say this right off the bat. Unless Bo Nix is injured, Bo Nix is starting week 1 for the Denver Broncos. And not only do I think that even if it's neck and neck right now, I think that decision probably has already been made. Like, internally, I think they've already decided that that's the way they want to go. And I don't see why they wouldn't, because, if you look at it, Jarrett Stidham, what's his ceiling compared to Bo Nix's ceiling? And you'd say, hey, if they're close, even if Jarrett Stidham is a little bit ahead of Bo Nix, he's pressed against the ceiling. Bo Nix has, a long way to go. But I will tell you what the number one quality for me of Bo Nix is watching him in practice, and that's his pocket presence.
Mm-hmm.
That dude understands pressure. He understands how to avoid it. He understands how to keep his eyes down the field and slide. I used to say this about Tom Brady all the time. Tom Brady is the greatest scrambler in NFL history that's never left the pocket.
Yeah.
He cannot run, he can't run 10 yards, that dude. But his ability to manipulate the pocket, and I watch Bo Nix by himself, a half a second here, a half a second there, sliding a little bit to the left, throwing it across his body. I think just buying himself time and finding himself, while he's buying time, a window to manipulate his body and to throw through. And this comes after 2 years of watching Russell Wilson run around like a chicken with his head cut off and take sacks right and left and have no pocket awareness, no pocket presence. I mean, nothing, to where I'm watching a dude that really understands, hey, man, like, one of the things that I think are important, or is important as a player, and I'm talking about advanced stuff. One of the things I thought of as a player, every play, where can I not lose?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about blocking your guy, but it's about where can I not lose and where can I lose? Meaning, so, hey, if we're boot keeping out the front side, like we're running a waggle pass, right? And I know I'm front side of that waggle pass, and I've got a sell run on that side. You know where I can't lose? I can't lose front side. Why? Because that's where the quarterback is running. And if I lose front side, I have no help front side. Where can I lose? Well, if I overshoot it a little bit, I've got the center or somebody else coming with me. So he's going to get caught up in traffic. So if I lose inside, I can wheel back and effectively still get the block because he's going to get in, his progress will be impeded by other people that are running on the same track or the same path as me. So when you start to think about, hey, man, if I get this blitz, where do I have to bail? Where do I have to slide? How can I buy myself an extra half second to hit this crosser that got jammed up?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that on Saturday's practice half a dozen times. And it was beautiful because eventually, you know, if you buy yourself that half a second and not looking to run, moving within the pocket, looking to throw, keeping my eyes downfield, feeling the rush, but not looking at the rush. And I watched him do it half a dozen times. And right now, that part of his game, he's at an advanced level. And I don't know, Mike, I really don't know that that's one of those. I think everything can be taught. I think you can get better at everything. But I think that's one of those things that just is kind of naturally inherent in great players. And he had that, like he had that way better than any of the other quarterbacks. And that to me right there says, well, he'll be starting on Sundays.
The Hall of Fame class, we saw them inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend in Canton. Congratulations, Andre Johnson, Julius Peppers, Patrick Willis, Devin Hester, Dwight Freeney from Syracuse, Randy Gradishar, the old Bronco from the Orange Crush days, and Steve McMichael, which I thought was a warming story, ravaged by ALS, bedridden, but still had his jacket on, surrounded by family, members of the 85 Bears. They had the bagpipes playing outside his house. I thought that was very well done. Just any observations you'd like to share about these players who are now immortalized in Canton?
Yeah, really cool to see the support of the 85 Bears. Got to play against McMichael on several different occasions. Mongo, larger than life dude, strong, stout. Those guys with him and Dan Hampton and Richard Dent and Otis Wilson and Mike Singletary and Gary Fensick and like it's just like, oh shoot, here we go. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's gonna be a long day. Wilbur Marshall off the edge.
Yeah,
right. They were so damn good, and it's cool. No matter where you end up in life, it's cool to have a group of dudes who had sacrificed so much to kind of stay together and no matter how far you kind of drift and how out of touch you get, when you get together, you still have that camaraderie, that feel, and to see that support they have for Steve McMichael and what he's going through. And obviously we're going to lose him sooner than later. But really cool that he gets inducted. Really, it's a really cool moment. So that part is awesome. Obviously you just absolutely feel devastated for the guy, but I'm so glad it wasn't done posthumously, right? I'm so glad that honor was bestowed upon him. And he could enjoy that moment with his teammates because it really is about your teammates. And it's always funny every time the Hall of Fame comes up. My wife and I kind of jokingly say when they're voting, I hope it's nobody we went in with. Like, I hope, because making the trek to Canton is like a pain in the ass, You're like, oh, here we go. And but when you get there and the ability to celebrate with your teammates and to do all that, it's really special. It's really cool. So that's kind of was my biggest takeaway, the one guy. And then, we are in Denver and I played for the Broncos, and to see Randy Gradishar finally be honored for, being such an outstanding player and such a great Hall of Famer. And to see him get that honor as well was really touching for me. It was a big deal for me because I just know how much it means to him and I know how much he deserved it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
So looking ahead to next year, here are some of the candidates on the ballot for the first time that would be eligible. You got Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
Terrell Suggs, Marshall Yanda, terrific offensive lineman, Luke Kuechly, and Eli Manning. And this one figures to be a very passionate debate. The case for and against Eli Manning. The case against is his regular season record was 500, 117 to 117. He threw 366 touchdowns, but 244 interceptions. Didn't have a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. But in the playoffs, 8-4 in the playoffs, and in those 2 Super Bowl runs where the Giants beat New England in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowl wins, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions along those 2 Super Bowl runs. So 2 Super Bowls in New York, first ballot Hall of Famer?
2 Super Bowls. See, I've vacillated back and forth on Eli for years.
Yeah.
Because the Super Bowls are big, and plus he knocked down the evil empire twice. One time they were undefeated, right? So
America owes a debt of gratitude.
Right. So that in and of itself is probably Hall of Fame worthy for most people voting. But his like you said, his regular season record was kind of average, 117. So I don't know about first ballot though. Do you vote him in on the first ballot if that's a big deal? Like, I think he gets in eventually. I don't think he gets in first ballot.
Like when Peyton goes in, right. I mean, some guys just, right? It's a first ballot. I don't think anybody on this list of guys that I just mentioned feel like first ballot guys. Eventual Hall of Famers, sure, but first ballot.
Is this everybody's first ballot? Those guys you listed?
These are all guys going to be on the ballot for the first time.
I would go Terrell Suggs and Luke Kuechly.
Really?
I don't have a problem with them. Yeah, those guys. Suggs was a beast, like an absolute beast. So and Kuechly, although his career, he just abruptly put an end to it. I mean, with concussions and everything, he just said, I've had enough after 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it was. He's still playing at an incredibly high level, but I wouldn't have any problem with both of those guys being first ballot Hall of Famers because they were that good. But Eli, which is stupid. If you're a Hall of Famer, then what's the difference? Does it make but Eli feels like you can't give him the same honor as Peyton, can you? You can't say, hey, Peyton's a first ballot, so are you. I don't know. Maybe you just have to give Peyton. I mean, you never know. Peyton may reach out and say, hey, listen, don't put my brother. I need one thing over. I need one thing.
That's one thing.
Peyton is, that dude is in charge. That dude's in charge of the NFL.
Yes, right. Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's actually the de facto commissioner. We don't even know it.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll wield a little power right there and say, nope, he can't get in first ballot. Sorry.
Well, congratulations to the class that went in, and we'll be finding out the list of the top finalists coming up here. Pretty much around Thanksgiving or so, and then start whittling it down, and away we go. So Mark Schlereth will not be on the list. There was a time there you were always appearing on the first 50.
Yeah, I did that for several years.
Yeah.
I was on for several years, and then I was off, and then I went back on because I got better.
Yes.
I was like a fine wine. I ripened, and I was even better. And probably because people listened to me talk about myself and like, wow, this guy was really good without actually watching the film. They're just like, damn, have you heard him talk about himself?
He must be really good because nobody could be that egotistical and talk about himself like that if it wasn't true.
Right, exactly. So, I was in the top 50 on several different occasions. I don't know if I ever made the top 25. I don't think I made the top 25. If I did, it was probably a typo. But anyhow, that's just the way it goes, Mike.
Hey, it's just an honor. Sometimes it's just an honor to be nominated, right?
That's right. That's exactly how I feel.
All right.
Hey, for everybody involved in the Sink Truth podcast live from Alaska, we thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll be back with you guys later on in the week. Mike, I appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinky Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.